What if one cowboy's courage could change a life forever? When a greedy farmer shouts, "Buy a cow, get a working Apache woman for free," everyone watches, but only one man dares to stand against injustice. What happens next will surprise you. Stay till the end to witness this unforgettable journey of courage, freedom, and hope. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. In the rugged plains of Montana, during the late 1880s, the weekly livestock auction had drawn ranchers, traders, and settlers from miles away. Horses neighed, cattle filled the air with loud calls, and merchants competed to attract buyers with promises of the finest animals in the territory. Wagons lined the dusty road, while families gathered to watch the busy market. Among the excitement stood one farmer whose reputation for greed was well known. Desperate to sell his aging cattle before winter, he climbed onto a wooden crate and shouted outrageous offers that made people stop and stare. The crowd expected another ridiculous bargain, but no one imagined the shocking words that would come next. With a loud grin, the farmer raised his hand toward a frightened young Apache woman standing several feet away and yelled, "Buy a cow! Get a working Apache woman for free!" A wave of uncomfortable laughter spread through parts of the crowd, while others exchanged uneasy glances. Some people treated it as a cruel joke, but a few quietly looked away in shame. The woman remained perfectly still, refusing to react despite the humiliation. Her name was Ayana, and although her clothes were worn from endless labor, her posture reflected quiet strength. Even in that painful moment, she refused to let anyone see fear in her eyes. Ayana had once lived peacefully with her family in the mountains, where they respected the land and followed the traditions of their ancestors. Everything changed after a violent frontier raid destroyed her village and separated her from the people she loved. Captured during the chaos, she was passed from one ranch to another, forced to cook, clean, and work long hours without freedom or respect. Every sunrise reminded her of what she had lost, yet she never abandoned hope that one day she would choose her own path again. Deep inside, she carried the courage and pride that no hardship could ever erase. As the crowd argued over cattle prices, a tall cowboy named Jake Carter guided his horse toward the auction. Jake was respected across Montana for his honesty, hard work, and willingness to help strangers without expecting anything in return. He had come to purchase a few healthy cows for his growing ranch before the cold season arrived. At first, the busy market seemed like every other auction he had attended, but the farmer's cruel announcement immediately caught his attention. Jake slowly turned his horse toward the scene, studying Ayana's calm expression and realizing that what he had witnessed was not merely an insult but a serious injustice. Jake climbed down from his horse and walked through the silent crowd without taking his eyes off the farmer. The laughter faded as people sensed that something important was about to happen. Jake believed every person deserved respect, regardless of their background or circumstances, and he could not ignore such public humiliation. His jaw tightened as he stopped only a few steps from the wooden platform. Ayana briefly looked toward him, uncertain whether he would simply become another silent spectator. Instead, Jake stood firm, determined to challenge the farmer's disgraceful behavior. In that single moment, neither of them realized their meeting would become the beginning of an extraordinary story that would change both of their lives forever. The auction grounds fell completely silent as Jake Carter stepped forward and stood directly in front of the farmer. Dust drifted across the open square, while every conversation came to an abrupt stop. Ranchers, traders, and families watched closely, sensing that something unusual was about to happen. Jake removed his hat, looked calmly at the farmer, and spoke with quiet confidence. He said no human being should ever be treated like merchandise or offered as part of a business deal. His steady voice carried across the marketplace, leaving many people ashamed that they had remained silent, while another person's dignity was openly insulted. The farmer laughed loudly, believing Jake would eventually give up like everyone else before him. He mocked the cowboy, claiming that nobody had the right to question how he handled his own property. A few men standing nearby chuckled nervously, but others frowned at the farmer's arrogance. Jake never raised his voice or showed anger. Instead, he calmly explained that respect could never be measured by money and that every person deserved freedom and fairness. His words began changing the mood of the crowd, and even those who had laughed moments earlier now stood quietly, reflecting on what they had witnessed. Realizing that Jake refused to back down, the farmer crossed his arms and demanded payment if the cowboy wanted to interfere. Jake reached into his pocket and counted enough money to buy the cow at its honest market value. Then he placed the coins on the wooden table and made one condition perfectly clear. He would purchase the animal fairly, but Ayana would leave as a free woman, not as part of any bargain or reward. The simple offer surprised everyone. Jake wanted no special favor. He only wanted justice. His calm determination carried far more strength than threats or violence ever could. The marketplace buzzed with quiet whispers as respected ranch owners, merchants, and even the town blacksmith stepped closer to support Jake. One by one, they agreed that the farmer's behavior had crossed every line of decency. Seeing influential people stand beside the cowboy, the farmer realized he was losing the respect of the entire community. His confident smile slowly disappeared as pressure mounted from every direction. Knowing that refusing the offer could damage his reputation and future business, he reluctantly accepted the payment. The crowd released a collective sigh, and several people nodded with approval, relieved that compassion had finally prevailed over greed. Ayana slowly stepped away from the platform, taking her first steps toward freedom with quiet dignity. She paused in front of Jake and thanked him with calm sincerity, her eyes reflecting both gratitude and disbelief. For the first time in years, she felt hope replacing fear. Jake simply smiled and assured her that every person deserved the chance to choose their own future. As the sun began setting over the Montana plains, the crowd gradually returned to their daily business. But many knew they had witnessed something unforgettable. Neither Jake nor Ayana realized that this courageous decision would become the beginning of an extraordinary journey filled with trust, healing, and unexpected adventure.